To make a maiden speech to the House, I call Tanya Unkovich.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Dobar dan, poštovanje dame I poštovanja gospodo. Good afternoon. Mr. Speaker, I begin my maiden speech today by congratulating you on your election to the chair. I welcome my husband Grant, who is with my two brothers, Gillian and Anthony. They're both present here today. I have a third brother, Nick, who is unable to be here today. There are so many people to thank. To my supporters and volunteers, all who worked so selflessly at times during all hours of the night. To my fellow candidates and colleagues for whom I have the deepest respect, thank you all for your support. To all of the loyal members of New Zealand First, so many working behind the scenes. Some of you have worked tirelessly for decades for the party. Your dedication and commitment have contributed to why we stand here today to represent New Zealand First and the people of New Zealand. It is also of importance that I respectfully honour my late mother and father, Smiljan and Pavica Unkovich. It was in 1958 that my young parents, then only 26 and 27, with their firstborn, Gillian, made the bold move to leave their homeland of Croatia and sail to the other side of the world in the hope of a better life. Despite their uncertainty, they left behind their family and everything they knew to settle in Dargaville, Northland, as dairy farmers, soon affectionately becoming known as tareras. Unable to speak the language, their early years as immigrants were hard. My eldest brother recalls many a night hearing my parents both weep, unsettled in their new life and grieving the family they left behind. Having grown up during the Second World War, despite being relatively young, my parents were incredibly resilient. They knew how to work hard, and they ensured their children learnt that same lesson. It was a fire that burnt our house to the ground, losing nearly everything. That was the catalyst for my parents to make the move, to make the decision to leave Northland and move to Auckland, just prior to my 8th birthday, and where I have for the past 50 years called home. It is said that people with hope can endure incredible burdens, and this hope for a better life for their children was what my parents held on to during those difficult few years. They never gave up. Thank you, Mama I Tata, for the sacrifices you made for us, for your children. It is said that the quality of your life is due to the quality of your decisions. My life has been a series of pivotal decisions. Each has contributed to the little girl from the farm to now having the privilege of standing here today. My first significant decision was made at the early age of 14, when, at the end of my 4th form year, I came home with a substandard school report and received a loud, animated telling off from my mother. Not having a higher education, my parents wanted more for their children. They both worked physically very hard. Firstly, on the farm, then Tata as a commercial fisherman, and the remainder of his working life as a drain layer. Mama spent countless hours sitting at a commercial sewing machine or standing at a kitchen bench. Her sadness on this day was not because of my poor grades, but because she knew I could do better. And here I was, possibly wasting the opportunity of the education that was available to me in this great country. Clouded with a lack of belief in myself and my academic abilities, I allowed this internal narrative to limit my efforts, and it showed in my results. It was my mother's powerful words on this day and her belief in me that was the leverage I needed to make the decision to work hard and at least try. I knew that the cost of not making this choice would be far greater. Which is why, Mr. Speaker, I'm committed during my time in Parliament, alongside with my fellow colleagues, to take heed and do what we can to reverse the declining outcomes we are seeing in our education system. To be a voice for our children and youth who are our future. To show them and their parents, if necessary, that it is possible to choose a different path. To break one's self-defeating patterns, to see one's worth, and in time to experience what is possible for their future. One pivotal decision could completely change the trajectory of their lives as it did for me. The following year, I showed up for school. I surrounded myself with a new set of friends, I worked hard, and I went on to excel during the remainder of my high school years. Which is why I again share this message to our youth, that yes, you can, and what can happen for others can also happen for you. By the age of 20, I completed my Bachelor of Commerce degree at Auckland University, became an auditor, which was then followed by 4 years in the corporate world, soon after gaining my membership to the New Zealand Institute of Chartered Accountants. At 28, I chose self-employment, setting up my private consultancy practice. My timing was perfect, as it coincided with the launch of MYOB in New Zealand, the new accounting software package. My practice grew very quickly as I helped sell, install and train hundreds of business owners on how to transfer their paper accounting ledgers to a fully computerised system. My coaching career also commenced at this time, as many of my clients also wanted help with matters of the heart. My own love of personal development commenced during times of self-doubt as a teenager. It was, however, when deep grief first knocked on my door in my mid-30s that led me to obtain my diploma in counselling and subsequently life and business coaching certifications, becoming a member of the International Coaching Federation. Little did I know that my brief dance with grief during this decade was but a taste of what was to follow when at 40, my then husband, Philip Morrow, was diagnosed with terminal cancer and passed away 5 months later. It was on the day of Phil's funeral that I declared that no matter the extent of suffering that was ahead, I would search for meaning from this event and find purpose again, and remain committed to be of service to others. This significant life event, and the many that have followed during the past 2 decades, are one of the reasons that I stand here today as a new parliamentarian and to be so driven to advocate for mental health. Regardless of age, profession or status, a decline in mental health can visit or revisit any of us without notice at any time. Financial stress, eating disorders, addictions, crippling loneliness and unresolved grief are but a handful of what so many are silently struggling with in today's world. Many want help, however, it is either unavailable or unaffordable. Some feeling too ashamed to even admit to family that they are suffering, and they try to keep up with the she'll be right attitude until one day all is not all right. I was so fortunate to have support during my darkest hours. Many do not have this luxury, and I'm speaking openly here today to those who are resonating with my message. Tell someone, anyone. It was again my mother who gave me the greatest advice I have ever received, and what I have shared with my clients ever since, and I will share with you today. During one of my lowest points in my life, she said to me in her soft Croatian voice, "Tanya, you have got to make yourself happy." Actually, it wasn't so soft. She went, "Tanya, you've got to make yourself happy." A part of me wanted to laugh out loud, as here I was, having read all the books and educated in the field, and here was my mother, with a very simple education and not able to command the English language, gave me the sagest advice, that happiness was an inside job, and this choice was up to me. And right now she'd be saying to me, "Tanya, don't you cry. so I'm not going to cry. It was at that moment I once again made the decision to get back up again, to take personal responsibility for my life, and no matter what, to choose joy over suffering. My professional career since that time has been a fulfilling mix of finance, writing, speaking, and executive coaching. I have published 4 books on mental health, resilience, and how to overcome adversity, and one day I plan to write more. My journey into politics was once again a decision. Just as I knew 2 decades earlier that there was a place for me to contribute to mankind, I knew on a deep level that this was my next chapter to a life of service. One of the other areas I'm so incredibly passionate about, and one of the many reasons that drew me to New Zealand first, is my respect and love for the seniors in our community. It is no secret that my parents were everything to me, and walking beside them during the past decade of their lives dramatically increased my awareness of what it must be like for them and other seniors as they enter this stage of their life. It served as a reminder that one day this too will be me, all of us. Our elders, our seniors have worked incredibly hard. They deserve care, respect, and most importantly, they deserve human connection. I will work tirelessly to ensure our seniors are not forgotten. Someone once wisely said to me as a teenager that the most important thing one can do in our lives is to always honour our parents, to be at peace and to be united with them. He then added that this would enable us to be more united and at peace with others, especially ourselves. This message of unity is one I have continuously written and spoken about, and one I wish to speak as I close my statement today, as it is one of my main answers when asked, "Why politics, Tanya?" A house divided cannot stand. Whether it be within a marriage, a family, a community or a country. Unfortunately, it is often a lesson not learned until we face our own mortality or that of a loved one. Do we see that much of what divided us in the first place was not worth the precious time wasted? Yes, our country now faces so many hurdles to overcome, costing our nation and our communities more than we could imagine. However, the cost of not bringing the people together might just be our real crisis. We, the people of New Zealand, now have a choice. I am of the belief that we are not made for comfort, but for greatness. And one of the highlights of my professional career was to have mentors whom I would class as extraordinary humans. Having the privilege of being part of the Tony Robbins International Coaching Team meant I was always surrounded by fellow coaches and clients who always strive to live at their highest standard. Which leads me to why I would now like to pay proper tribute to the Right Honourable Winston Peters and the Honourable Shane Jones. I am sure I speak for my fellow colleagues here today to say how honoured I feel to now have you both as mentors. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for leading by example. Thank you for always having our back as a team. And thank you for your commitment to our country. On a lighter note, the humour and one-liners you bring are second to none and are a great reminder to us all of the saying that a day without laughter is a day wasted. One more drink of water. Now, as a final word, I would again like to mention my husband, Grant Anderson. We met later in life when many of us show up with that little bit of extra baggage. Mine was called grief. Thank you for your patience as I slowly unpacked mine. You have been my greatest cheerleader on every venture, especially on this most recent path to politics. However, Grant, most importantly, you were a wonderful son-in-law, and you honoured my mother and father as if they were your own, especially during those most recent difficult years. I feel unspeakably grateful that you now stand beside me and all of my colleagues here today on this most important journey, as we now have the privilege to serve the people of New Zealand. Whālavam and thank you.